I'm a 27-year-old male now, but the story takes place when I was around 14 or so. I grew up in a neighborhood at the edge of a small cul-de-sac in a small town in southern New York. Running along the west side of town is this huge wooded area with a river running through it. And as a kid, me and my friends spent a lot of time going through it and exploring it. It wasn't state-owned or anything, so it became a local hotspot for people to do illegal activities such as drug deals and stuff. In front of these woods was some type of abandoned electrical station from the 80s. My parents always told us that it was used to power another building that has since been demolished, and I guess they just had no use for the station and left it there. Beyond these woods is a large field that was used for agricultural purposes, but nobody used it for a while now. Anyway, a group of at least 4 of us decided to go exploring in the woods at night. It was me, my best friend Devin, my other friend Jake, and his girlfriend Samantha. This was in the middle of October, so we had to bring sweaters as it was decently cold out. We had planned to stay out there for a few hours, so we packed some extra food and water. So I tell my mom I'm going over to so-and-so's house, and she gives me the usual advice about staying safe. Don't leave the house, don't make stupid decisions, stay clear of strangers, that sort of thing. I was lying, but I didn't think much of her reminders like usual when going out. After that, I left my house and rode my bike down to the cul-de-sac where we planned to meet up. We left our bikes at Jake's house and walked into the woods with our flashlights turned on. Devin began attempting to scare us by making these creepy noises, but it didn't work on us as we found it rather annoying. We hiked for about a good 20 minutes into the woods when we come across the river I had mentioned earlier. It was flowing with water fast, so you could decently hear the stream. In front of the river was this huge clearing, and across the river was a hillside, so it was a beautiful scenery. Samantha decides that she was going to stop here for a rest as she was getting tired. Jake agreed too because, well, she's his girlfriend, so he couldn't say no, and Devin and I decided to sit down too. I'm talking to Devin when he suggests we both take a walk up the hill because he wanted to see what was on the other side. I naturally didn't care, but I could use a nice hike, and we went on our way. We hiked for about 10 minutes or so before Devin notices something at the top of the hill, and it didn't take long for me to notice it as well. Behind the hill was a faint glow neither of us could describe. At first, we thought it was moonlight filtering its way through the trees. However, the angles didn't make sense. It didn't seem to be a bright light, and it wasn't moving. It was kind of like that glow you'd see over a bright city, but we couldn't see the light source itself though. We were both intrigued and made our way up the hill talking about what it could be when whatever this light was went out. Then from the top of the hill we can see a human-shaped figure walking in circles. It was too dark to tell if it was a man or a woman, but we could clearly see that it was a person. However, we didn't hear any voices, and their arms appeared to be swinging side to side, indicating that they weren't on the phone. I suddenly start to get this strange feeling, and we decided to head back and go back to the house. Right as we were about to turn around, we see whoever was on top of the hill stop and turn to face us. I'd say we stared back for a good minute or so before we see that this person is getting bigger and bigger. That's when it hit us. He was getting bigger because he's running straight for us. I tell Devin that we had to run, and we both bolt out of there praying to God that neither one of us trip or fall. Unfortunately, this person who we assumed was a full adult male was faster than us kids, so he was gaining fast. All the while we were screaming for Jake and Samantha that they had to run too. I guess they saw we were being chased because they started to make a run for it. We all run for a good 10 minutes back down the trail we came down until we eventually lost our breath. All of us were scared shitless, constantly looking back and forth to see if we were being followed. Fortunately, we didn't see anyone and made it out of the woods, trekking the mile back to my house. We never did tell any of our parents what we encountered that night because we'd obviously be in trouble for it. Till this day, Devin and I still don't know what that mysterious light was for or who that was. Devin theorized that it was likely a fire of some type. However, why this person chased us is still unknown. Maybe he didn't want us near him, maybe he didn't want to be seen, or maybe he didn't want us to see what was really behind that hill. Either way, I don't want to know, as it was likely nothing good. 2 weeks later, Jake tells us at school that he had seen a chilling news report about a serial killer being arrested after escaping from prison. Apparently, he had murdered his ex-girlfriend for having an affair with his coworker. Now, take what I say with a grain of salt, but it was rumored that he stored her in his freezer after he ended her life. This news spread around the town like wildfire, so much so that people wouldn't stop talking about it. It was sort of our local Ted Bundy era, if that makes sense. I don't know if what we encountered was connected to the supposed serial killer or not, but both are equally terrifying. The month of October was my favorite month of the year, especially when I was younger. This happened to me and my mom back in 2004. I was just 9 years old then, and my mom had taken me to the small annual pumpkin patch our town had every year. Being a kid who loved Halloween, I obviously loved pumpkins as well, especially carving one. Well, they had a pumpkin carving competition for the kids, and whoever carved the best pumpkin would win a prize like a shirt or something. I was all in for it, as it was something I genuinely found enjoyment in. That day, my mom helps me carve the best pumpkin surrounded by 10 other kids with their parents. As we were carving, I tell my mom that I'm gonna go use the restroom and that I'd be back. Before I continue, let me explain the way the area is set up. There's a sort of info lodge on the farm, and outside is the pumpkin patch and the restrooms are across the field. The field isn't big by any means, so my mom let me go without her having to come. As I'm making my way over to the restrooms, I see a woman I had never seen before walk out. Right off the bat, she knew my name and said hi in a very soft tone. I figured she was maybe a relative or friend of my mom's, and I said hi to be polite. I waited for a moment before asking her who she was. However, instead of responding, she simply looks ahead and walks away. I was confused, but I didn't think much of it and went to the bathroom to do my business. The rest of the day went normal. We didn't win the competition, but I still had fun in the end. After about an hour or so, it was starting to get late and my mom and I drive home. We live in the middle of a rural town in Idaho, so it was a decently long ride home. I remember my mom stopping by a gas station as we were low on gas and she didn't want to risk us running out. She let me stay in the car while she went inside to pay. I got out my Game Boy and began playing a few mini games to pass time when I noticed something out my window. Across the street is the woman from the pumpkin patch standing on the side of the road. She didn't appear to be doing anything though. She just stood there as if she were waiting for our ride or something. I didn't think much of it and tended to my game before my mom came back. When my mom finally comes back, the woman who was just across the street was nowhere to be seen. My 9-year-old self thought she had maybe left, so I tried to get it off my mind. Now, this is the part that creeps me the hell out. When we got back home, my mom was cooking dinner when I hear her start crying. When I ask what was wrong, she says that my Aunt Nancy died in Europe yesterday. She said that I never met her, but that she was close to my mom. For whatever reason, I asked to see a picture, and when my mom showed me, I felt my blood run cold. The picture was of the same woman I had seen at the pumpkin patch. I didn't say anything and simply walked away trying to process it all. In the end, I accepted the fact that the only logical explanation was that this was 100% paranormal. This happened to me a few years ago and I'm still shaken up by it, so bear with me. I'm a female bartender at a small cafe that doubles as a venue. During the day, we'd mostly sell coffee and lunch, and at night, we'd have a full bar with live music, comedy shows, drinks, etc. On this night, there was an open mic comedy show. Seeing as we were nearing Halloween, we made this night Halloween themed with all of our decorations set up. Not a lot of comedians showed up, so we ended up closing early and I was ready to go home. Right before we were about to close, I get a patron come in for a beer. I was annoyed and just wanted to leave, but I obviously couldn't say no. He was this 40-something-year-old man with a jacket and hat that said something in another language. He starts talking and has really bad English with a strong accent, indicating that he wasn't from here. Eventually, after processing as to what he was trying to say, he says he wants a beer and hands me a $5 bill. Then he gives me this smile I can't even describe and says that he'll see me later in this weird tone, almost as if he were trying to sound sexual. With that, he leaves the bar and I see him walk down the street out of sight. I continue to close up, clock out, grab my keys, and walk to my car. It was only 5 minutes after the man had left and I didn't see him anywhere. Everything around here wasn't open, so there was really nowhere he could have gone. However, I was just happy to be off work and just wanted to get home and sleep. So there I am, driving home while jamming to my playlist in the car when I see another car behind me. He's following me and taking every turn I take and even flashed his high beams on to try and get my attention. I felt my heart pound out of my chest as I realized this and was debating on what to do. Should I confront him? Try to lose him? Go to the police station? I didn't know. Whatever he was trying to do wasn't good. Eventually, I decided that it would be best to confront him, so I pull over to the side of the freeway. I unbuckle my seatbelt, getting ready to understand what this person wanted when I hear my back door open. I turn around and see, out of all people, the same man from the bar jump out of my car and bolt into the woods surrounding the road. I won't lie, I almost had a full-on heart attack when I realized what was going on and just stayed in my car trying not to scream. The other car pulls up behind me and I see 2 people get out and run over to me asking if I was okay. They ended up explaining themselves and told me that they were actually trying to help. As it turns out, they were in their car smoking when they saw the man leave the bar and break into the back seat of my car. All this time, I thought these people had the intention of harming me when it was the complete opposite. How I didn't notice this man was in the back of my car the whole time, I don't know. I had my music on full blast, so that would have eliminated any noise this person could have made. I assumed he was laid down on the floor, so I wouldn't have been able to see him. After that, we called the police and all it could do was describe his hat and jacket. The officers followed me home to ensure my safety. Being a person who suffers from anxiety, I was beyond grateful they went out of their way to do that. Thank you to those people who saved my life that night, and thank you to the officers for escorting me back home. I'm not sure what he was planning on doing to me, but I feel more comfortable not knowing. 2 months later, around Christmas time, a girl just a little younger than me went missing around the same area where I worked. Police ended up finding her vehicle and her body over 200 miles from where she was last seen. Unfortunately, however, she was found dead, but the FBI never revealed the cause of her death. There was a whole investigation, and after some amazing detective work, they were able to find her killer. Who was it, you may ask? The same man who was in my car. It's honestly horrifying knowing I could have suffered the same fate. Her picture was released to the public, and she was the sweet 23-year-old angel with a genuine smile. I sometimes still cry about it till this day. The man who took her life was arrested and is now facing the death penalty 3 years later. I still tell people my story till this day about how I didn't drive home alone that night.